Hello, this is Heather Hodlin, and I'm going to be explaining a user-defined class being my custom class that I've written named stars. In this class, we will create a class method named stars that will take in a temperature and a mass and will then classify the given star and return its color. To begin, we start with public class stars. Beginning with our fields or our instance variables, we have the string name, the double temp, which will be the temperature in units of kilokelvins, and the double mass, which will be in units of solar masses. Next, we have our constructor methods. We write public stars with no parameter list here because we are going to be setting our default values. As you can see here, I have chosen a random star with its given temperature and mass to be my default values. Next, we're going to set each of our instance variables. Though if you see on line 32, we have the same constructor method as before, being public stars, except that now we have a parameter list with the new name, new temp, and new mass. Because we want to make sure no errors occur when inputting values, we only want the set to occur if a positive value is entered for the temp as well as the mass, because a negative temperature or negative mass will not be correct in this situation. So we use an if-else statement. The name, however, is strictly a string, so it will be set with the line 35. This .name equals new name. And finally, we have our methods. Starting with our setters, we begin with the public Boolean set name. We use a Boolean here because we want the return statement to be true if the set occurs. If not, we want it to return false. The set may not occur if a negative value is given for temp or for mass. Similar to before, we want to make sure that no errors are entered. And finally, we have our getters. Our getters are going to be used when wanting to retrieve the value of a given instance variable, such as the name, temp, or mass. These will be able to access the star class. And now we have our method named classify star. It is public with a type void return. The way that this is going to work is we have a very long if-else statement with a nested if-else statement in it. First, we're going to look at the temperature, and if it has the specific temperature here, then the mass will be looked at. If the mass is in the correct range, it is going to print out the star name is, in this case, orange-red, and of type M. However, if the mass is not in the correct range, it is going to print out that the star has too small of a mass to be classified. And then if we go further on to see a different temperature now, if it's in this correct range, then it'll check the mass, and if the mass is in range, is going to give a similar statement as before, just with a different color and a different type. However, if the mass is not in the correct range now, the system is going to print out this .name for the star has a temperature that cannot be classified with the smaller size of its mass, meaning that they do not line up for a specific classification. This format follows for each type of star that will be classified. Finally, we have our main method, or our code, to test our stars class. I create 4 stars. 3 of which are real, and 1 that is made up. As you can see, Cirrus and Capella have values inputted in the parameter list using the second constructor method. On line 160, however, we have Antares, which, if you remember, was our default star, so I left our parameter list empty because we're going to use the default values. And finally, our last star is called made up, and it is given some random values. Now I'm going to call our classify star method on all 4 of our stars to see what happens. Compile, run, and here's our output. Cirrus is blue-white of type B, Capella is yellow, type G, and so on. If you notice our star, made up star, it says that it has a temperature that cannot be classified with the smaller size of its mass. And this is because if we look back up, we gave it a temperature of 40 kilokelvins with a 14 solar mass, which does not fit anywhere in our classification system. So you can see our class is working. If I wanted to change our made up star, I could call my setter method to do so.